Gordon doesn't need to hear all this. He's a highly trained professional.
The ROM hacking scene for GoldenEye is one that I feel is somewhat dormant, at least compared to some of the other games that I've played. There are a few ROM hacks of this game, one of which was Goldfinger 64, which I spoke about 300 years ago. I've been wanting to play another GoldenEye hack on the scale of that one for a while, though the scene doesn't seem to be quite as active as something like Mario, Zelda, or Doom. So as you can imagine, hacks for this game are not quite as common. Today we're going to be looking at 3 GoldenEye hacks, not just because I enjoyed them, but also to express interest in seeing more in the future. The potential this game has for ROM hacking, at least from an outsider's perspective, is huge, and I would love to see more of it. So I want to hype up a couple of hacks that are already out there, starting with something really goofy. We're talking Rickroll I-64. I've played a lot of meme hacks during this marathon, by which I mean like 2. I don't know what it is that compels ROM hackers to make mods like this, but at least it's funny. Before I talk about this game, it's important to mention that I am using the mouse and keyboard controls for this game, and I know I say this every single time I talk about GoldenEye, but oh my god, this is incredible. I cannot go back to a controller after this. It literally turns the player into John Wick, and if you haven't already tried it, I cannot recommend it enough. And with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual game. Never Gonna Give You Up 64 follows Rick Astley on his journey to take down Big Smoke so that you can get on the damn train, CJ. But then it's revealed that Leonidas betrayed you and sold you out, so you go on a quest to kill him and you shoot him off of a cliff and he goes, "This is Sparta!" This is all based on a true story, by the way. I was there, in the background. You wouldn't have seen me. But Rick's life is completely turned upside down when he is given the task of breaking into the Black Mesa research facility so that you can upload Half-Life 3 to the Steam servers. This part of the story is, of course, completely fictional. There is no such thing as Half-Life. He also kills every single TF2 character because in this universe he's more of an Overwatch fan, which I'm pretty sure isn't true. It is, however, entirely possible that he met up with Scatman John at some point. Also, Miyamoto's face shows up on a number of enemies. I don't know why, I don't know what kind of beef he has with Rick Astley. Maybe he modded his 3DS. If I had to compare it to anything, I would compare it to Game of the Year 420 Blaze It. You all remember that. Now that's how you do an FPS. The dumb memes and new characters get you into the game, but really the thing I liked the most was the new weapons. Aside from their functionality, I don't think the game recycles a single weapon from the original game. You're going to be staring down the barrel of a gun for the grand majority of this game, so it's cool that one of those guns is a portal gun. Every level also has a remixed GoldenEye sound font rendition of whatever meme song best suits the level. Not to mention, some enemies do the Roblox death sound when they die. It's almost like if the people behind Bickman made GoldenEye. Fundamentally, the game is largely the same. Levels are lifted from the original, but remixed in ways both visual and physical, so it feels like something different. On the whole, this game knows exactly what it is. It's a joke game, and it is in on the joke. And considering how much of an involved process it is to make ROM hacks, it's kind of inspiring to think that people would go to the trouble to make something like this just to make people laugh. I guess you could say, they're never gonna let you down. Up next, we have Tomorrow Never Dies 64. Now, I've never actually seen Tomorrow Never Dies, but when I played the original GoldenEye, I hadn't seen GoldenEye either, so while I cannot speak to the game's authenticity to the film, I'm gonna gamble and say that it doesn't matter at all. It's James Bond. He has nice hair and he shoots people. This one is special because similarly to Goldfinger 64, this is an entirely new campaign with entirely new levels. The levels, although brief and small, still manage to be exciting, and there's enough there for you to understand the story that's unfolding, and it actually does have a straightforward beginning, middle, and end. No expense was spared with respect to the additional documentation that goes along with each mission. And on top of the actual story missions, there are also these bonus ones you unlock right at the end, my favorite one being Shadow Moses Island. Sneaking around giant boxes, blowing up transport vehicles and Hind Ds reminds me of a simpler time when Metal Gear was still a series and not just something to be remastered.
Real spies are nothing like James Bond, it's pure fantasy.
The sound effects have all been reworked such that the game feels more futuristic. Guns now sound more punchy and powerful than ever before, giving a much greater sense of intense action. I think a lot of my enjoyment from this game came from just firing the guns and listening to them go. Maybe one day I'll make a video on sound effects. They also redubbed some of the guttural sounds the NPCs make, which is a really nice flourish that a lot of people might not even notice. The music is also pretty sweet. No game is fully dressed without good music. As short as the levels are, they are complete with NPC dialogue and additional objectives beyond just shooting everyone into oblivion, or Morrowind. The short levels are as much a blessing as a downside because the game is far more conducive to speedrunning and replayability. Because you can blow through the levels so quickly, it almost encourages you to replay them over and over again in the name of getting that super low time score. This is also another game where Miyamoto shows up to shoot you. I feel like these ROM hackers really have it out for Miyamoto. Is it about Sticker Star? Cause that wasn't really his fault. And finally, we got a ROM hack that is not yet finished, also based on another Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me. This is a fun one despite only having 3 levels in its current state. Much like the other two, this one has new weapons, sound effects, and alternate objectives to complete the level. The Spy Who Loved Me, again, is a movie that I haven't seen, but the game is fun enough that it doesn't matter at all. You know, at this point, I feel like more people have played the GoldenEye video game than have actually seen the movie. I don't know if it's just generational, but I've heard tons of people talking about the game, and maybe one person talking about the movie. As for this game, well, it's fun. I just wish there was more of it, but maybe one day there will be. I cannot predict the future, but if I could influence it in any way, I wouldn't mind seeing more ROM hacks of GoldenEye. The formula has a lot of potential, especially with respect to the elaborate mission tasks and such, and after seeing all the cool stuff that has already been done with it, it'd be really cool to see what people can do with it even beyond that. But for now, these are nice fun ROM hacks, and if you're a fan of GoldenEye, I can definitely recommend them, especially if you're using mouse and keyboard. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching my video.